Hello, I'm back. Finally, been a while since I've streamed because I was fighting demons. I was really really sick, man. It was rough, but I'm back to making the film breakdowns, which I've posted a couple. But yeah, back to streaming. At least OTAs just started, so we'll talk some about that. Today's stream focusing on Jaylen Wright, what impact he'll have, which I do think out of the rookies, I would not be surprised if Wright was the one who ended up having like the most impact in year one. It just wouldn't surprise me. And then we'll go through, really break him down, look through my notes on him again, look at some more film, talk about kind of what I'm expecting, like the impact that he will make, that role we'll see for him, and kind of how that will play into everything. And I think the role that I think he allows HN to have too, which I think is pretty important. So yeah, what's up? How you doing, Zimbo? Oh, yeah, I'm just still a little tired, but I'm getting back. Pretty much back from being sick. It was a long like week. One of the worst like I had like a flu. It was like one of the worst sicknesses I've had in a while. I didn't get to talk about like the schedule release at all because I was sick. So we'll talk a little bit about the schedule. Overall, we can talk. Well, I might talk about like some of the Tua stuff, not like the contract stuff, all the nonsense people have been reporting. That's pretty much a non-story. And then just other random things. I think next. Yeah, I'm super excited about Wright too. Definitely one of my favorite picks the Dolphins made in this draft. Kind of fits like a glove. We'll talk a little bit about the fit while there's definitely still some questions, and I honestly am wondering how it is. If they'll change up some stuff, because Dolphins obviously being a heavy outside zone team. Jaylen Wright didn't run a ton of outside zone. Now his skill set fits that very well. They ran a lot of inside zone and like gap scheme stuff at Tennessee. I wonder if that means they'll run more inside zone and gap scheme stuff, which I wouldn't mind because I do think the Dolphins runners can do that as well, and I think would add a little more dimension to the Dolphins offense, a little more versatility, a little less predictable because I feel like their running game was a little predictable at times. Team still struggled to stop it, but I would like to see them become a little more multiple in that area. And I think Jaylen Wright, them bringing him on, could be a sign of that. But we'll see how that ends up playing out. But yeah, definitely like the Wright signing. We'll run through some film here in a second too. I think I might go through my notes on him first. So I'll just read some of my notes. Obviously, the big play stuff, home run hitter, is great. Like all of that. Burst speed at his size, which is very good. I like his vision. He's obviously a Mike McDaniel pick. He can pass protect too, which is nice. I think that's a nice side of his game. And then obviously he still brings that speed element. I think he allows Achane in 21 to make more of a receiver this year, which I want to talk about a little bit too. And then I think when it comes to running back position, it's like how can these guys answer questions? It's kind of how I looked at it. Like what are their answers to things when they see these different looks within the boxes. And I do feel like Wright answers those things pretty quickly. He processes pretty fast. He's also very young. I think he just turned 21 like last month, which is a big thing. I like having these younger players. So he's still he's still, very young and can even improve. And I think, the biggest question mark with him was just that scheme at Tennessee, like how it projects the next level. But you could still see the skills that would translate to the NFL and how he answered those questions. Like even though he faced light boxes, you could still see like, oh, how would he answer the situation where, he's pressing up versus this block and this guy's this leverage, the defender, and he made quick decisions. And I think my favorite thing about his game is just you look at all the, the big play ability. I love his feet, man. At his size and his like efficient movement skills. It's always about the efficient footwork to me. Like when you have those quick feet and you can just make these quick transitions at his size along with the long speed, big play ability. And he always fights for extra yards, which is big. What's up, Thunder? Right, Lightning? Anytime you have only good things happen, yeah. And he's at that size with that speed, but also clearly brings like a good mind to it too, which is always important at the running back position. Like he clearly understands what he's doing back there. But yeah. And then that's kind of the notes out on him. I had some other things that I want to say. Let me see. I have them written down. Yeah, like obviously with Mostert and Achane in that rotation, I like to see more of a 3-man rotation this year. I think you see I wouldn't be surprised if we see Wright even get the Mostert's up there in age. He got a lot of touches last year. He's still going to get a lot of touches this year, but I think they start to work back his touches, especially as the season goes on. I think they use Achane in a different way, so he'll still get his touches, but I think you'll see him used even more in a gadget type way, used as a receiver. He'll still get his carries, but I think you're going to start seeing Wright get carries fairly early, and then as the season goes on, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year he's the one getting the bulk of the main carries, the ones where you're just grinding out some yards, because he has the body type for it, and it wouldn't surprise me. As I said earlier, they ran a lot of inside zone and gap scheme stuff, like with the counters, powers at Tennessee. So I wouldn't mind seeing Wright used like that a little bit too. Like obviously he's going to get outside zone. Dolphins run so many different outside zone concepts. They have many different variations, as in all the toss plays that they run. And Wright can do all of that stuff too, like Mostert and Achane. But one thing, Mostert was actually at his best in gap scheme runs when he played in San Francisco. And one thing Achane was really good was on those counter runs as well, coming out of college. So they can all do it. So I wouldn't mind the Dolphins becoming a little more versatile with their running game, their running concepts. I think that would help things out, because if you look at San Francisco, they do some stuff like that too, and I think it helps throws defenses off. Especially with things like even like influence trap whams concepts too. I think that would be an interesting thing. Even like the spinner counter, would be perfect for Jaylen Wright, where you have the orbit motion with Devon Achane around Tua. Tua does the spin, and then it goes into the GH counter stuff, handing it off to Wright. Wright's very comfortable working behind pullers, stuff like that. And then I want to talk about his footwork. His footwork's really, really good. Let me put on my glasses so I can reach out. Yeah, and that's another thing with the injuries. Running backs get injured all the time, and Mostert and Achane, Mostert's had a lot of injuries throughout his career, so that's always nice to have a backup. And he's older in age. Achane in his first season struggled with some injuries, and he's not the biggest back, so it's always nice to have that extra back. And he has I think more of that size element to really take a little more punishment too. Even though Achane, for his size, he does a really good job of absorbing contact, taking things on. So really like the combo of skills they all bring, while also fitting within the offensive scheme. Plus adding, all of their little own flares to things. Yeah, low mileage. Tennessee rotated running backs a lot. And you could definitely, but still see the absolute fit. So I'm going to let's run some film here actually. Let me go back. Hopefully you guys can see that. Jaylen Wright right here. I think this is the Texas A&M film, yeah. So a lot of times them fooling him with the footwork, setting up his blocks. We'll let this run through once here before I start slowing this stuff down. Love the grinding out extra yards there. He's facing some light boxes, but even facing light boxes, you still got to see him, beat the penetrators right there, fight extra yards. He still has to make some of the same decisions that he would make at the NFL level. The boxes will just be a little tighter, so his decisions will have to come a little quicker at times. Break off tackles. This part always translates where, he is very tough to bring down, which is a nice added bonus I think the Dolphins would have there too. And then look at the footwork, set things up, just really good feel for things in the backfield, create a little bit. He's not just a home run hitter. Obviously we've seen the big plays where he's just hitting the long bombs. If it's all blocked up well, he can hit that long, a big play like Achane could, like Mostert could too. So you don't really lose anything, when one of them's not in on the play. But they all, bring in something slightly different. And I think, Wright just does a really good job with his feet, redirecting himself. Look how active his feet right there are. Actually, I want to go back and look at that one again, because that play is impressive to me. I love how patient he stays. He's staying square too. His shoulders are staying square to the line of scrimmage. He doesn't just instantly, go to that side, bounce to it. He stays patient, allows the blocks to develop. Because if he runs straight to space, because a lot of times this is where people make mistakes. They run instantly to the space, and sometimes when you run straight to space, it makes you easier to predict for defenders. One, usually you'll have another linebacker here, so the box is lighter, which is something to he'll have to adjust to at the next level. But it makes it easier for defenders to predict angles when you're patient. Stay square. These guys come down, and now you're able to get up, press into it, make that guy miss at an easier angle there. You do it with second level defenders. You pull them down too. It's something Wright does a really good job of. And then just allowing his blocks to develop. He gets skinny through these lanes too, which is nice. But love the active feet. Go here. Go back to the first play. start breaking some of this stuff down a little bit one by one. But yeah, they pull, the tackle here, I believe, 74 across. So he's just working off the back of the tackle. Stays square there, sets that up, presses up into 34, then presses. Look how he presses his body upfield like this. Seeing, this defender gets him to pull down. Now he's able to bounce it to the outside, get an extra layer there, and then now just make one guy miss in space and then fight for extra yards. Just really, really nice stuff. One of my favorite parts of his game. Apparently, yeah, he's a pretty good blocker, I would say. He wasn't asked to do it a ton, but when he did a pretty solid job. I would say comparatively to the rest of the class, he did a nice job. But yeah, I'm a big fan of his film. And we'll definitely get more back into that. I never got to talk about, and he'll play. I think he'll play even pretty early on. Similar like how they tried to get Achane involved early. I don't think Achane was inactive week 1, but then he started playing a couple snaps in the Patriots game, and then week 3 they unleashed him. I expect kind of Jaylen Wright to get some looks early on, and then depending, injuries, things, how things play out. There's always, different questions, but I think he'll see some playing time pretty early, and then I think by the end of the season he could see significant carries. And he definitely will see significant carries when an injury happens. I think, he's your third guy right away. Yeah, Achane was injured on a hip drop, I believe, as well. So yeah, maybe that helps some of the teams stay healthy, because I think some of them got, Tyreek got injured on a hip drop tackle at one point last year. That's why he hurt his ankle. So hopefully that helps people stay healthy. That could be the good thing to come out of this rule. But yeah. There we go. Yeah, the schedule was, let's see, okay, right here. Yeah, so week 1, they play in Jacksonville. Pretty, normal. Nothing too crazy there. Week 1 in Jacksonville. Or they play, not in Jacksonville, they play in Miami. My bad. But they're playing Jacksonville in Miami, which is, honestly, if we're playing one of the Florida teams, I'd rather have those be the road games. And then they play Buffalo on Thursday night, so it's a night game. Which I think the best thing about this being a Thursday night game is the next game is away in Seattle, so they have to travel across, the coast. So at least they have an extra, few days for their West Coast travel games, because West Coast travel games can always be tough. Buffalo does avoid the heat, but I would rather play Buffalo early at home, and earlier in the season anyway. I'd rather get the Buffalo, at least the Buffalo games are fairly early. Then Tennessee at home on Monday night again. God, hopefully that doesn't play out the same way. Patriots week 5 in New England, not too bad. Week 6 bye kind of sucks, honestly. Week 7 in Indy, nothing to really talk about there. Then week 8, they play Cardinals in Miami. Then they play the Buffalo week 9. I think really just want to talk about that home stretch, because that looks 8 days apart. Okay. Oh yeah, and then they play Monday Night Football week 10 against Rams. Yeah, the end stretch of the last 6 games, which people talk about, because they go to Green Bay, then come back, play the Jets in Miami, then play the Texans, then play San Francisco, then finish the season at New York Jets, at Cleveland Browns. So that would be, some cold games definitely mixed in there with, the Browns, Jets, Green Bay, and then some tough opponents in San Francisco and Houston. So the end stretch will be the biggest part of the season. Let's hope the Dolphins can finish strong. And that's kind of where, a lot of these games are very winnable. Compared to last year's schedule, it's not harder. I would say at certain points it's pretty tough, but that's kind of how it's going to be within this division. The Dolphins will have a lot of, outdoor games, but I didn't need to spend too much time on the schedule. We can go back to some of the Jaylen Wright film. We'll look at the next play. See what's going on here. This guy penetrates up into here, stays patient, stays square, quick footwork. He efficiently moves to the side here, and then it's all really fluid and combined really well together. He strings his moves well together. There's not a lot of wasted movement. As soon as he sticks that foot in the ground, he gets back on his path, and then he fights for extra yard. He hits that contact, absorbs it at the second level, which is nice. Burst up into it too, which you can see that burst obviously. And I love that competitiveness, physical play style that he can bring to the table. Then, some more stuff like this, working in the interior, making a guy miss in a tighter space, which is always nice because he didn't always have to do that a ton. in this Tennessee system. Sometimes he had some super light boxes, but even when the boxes weren't light, you can see him really weave through the traffic here because to me, this is some GH counter stuff, which, you're running at the next level. Guard kicking out there. You're trying to follow up on your tight end. Look how he readjusts his angle with 10 shooting up the field so quickly. He really gets downhill instantly to avoid that, but not too far downhill. So he stays square, bounce out horizontally to hit that edge. So really just good feel as a runner. And then just to pick up some extra yards, I like seeing that sort of creativity out of him to set up his blocks. And then he also has that speed to hit the edge, and it's not just instantly either, which I really wish they ran some more outside zone at Tennessee, which they just didn't run a ton of. It's a lot of this pulling stuff, but he really has that ability to get out there, capture that edge, and has that speed to get around the corner. But I really just really enjoy watching his footwork. This is the stuff earlier that I was talking about. They ran a lot of, the gap scheme stuff, power, things like that. He's working off the back of his tackle. Look at him open up his hips too. He points that toe, open up his hips to really get to his spot, but with very, very little wasted movement, which is always huge. I love running backs that just have efficient footwork. Sometimes there's like really good athletic running backs, but they waste so much time by taking these extra steps. It's all about the efficiency, and Jaylen Wright is very, very efficient, especially for a guy at his size, known for the home run speed, because sometimes those guys with the home run speeds are just more of those straight line guys and don't have like a higher understanding of the game and don't have that but Wright sees it well, understands what he's trying to get done. I really don't want to see some of the backs that we had to use last year because of injuries on the roster. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how many backs they end up keeping this year. Like, I think the roster construction of this year will be very interesting. I think there's a lot of different directions they can go. So we'll see how many they end up keeping. But, I imagine we're just going to see that three-headed thing plus whoever they keep as a fourth as maybe Brooks or Jeff Wilson. Kind of looking forward to see how that battle plays out. I guess there's a world where they could keep three too. It reminds me of J.J. with speed. I've seen people say that. I don't know if I agree, but yeah. I can understand that take. I think J.J. was a little more out of control with his running style, but Wright does kind of do that with his upper body a bit. So yeah, maybe they're like upper bodies. I think Wright's more efficient with his footwork. But fun players that I very much enjoy. And Ajayi didn't have I remember when he first came out, he fell in the draft because he had didn't he not have cartilage in one of his knees? That's why people didn't expect his career to go very long. That's why he was basically like a 1 year-ish wonder. Would have been much better if didn't have the injury. Yeah, I like Brooks too. We'll see how this preseason plays out. Preseason will be big for him again because that's how he made the roster last year because he had such a big preseason. I'm excited to see how a lot of the camp battles play out. I think the interior O-line will be interesting. If I had to guess, I would say it would be right now Isaiah Wynn at left guard and Jack Driscoll at right guard. That's just my guess. That's what my gut feeling tells me. Obviously, there's so many other factors that can play into it. Injuries could happen. I think they're going to give, Liam Eichenberg a chance. Personally, I like Liam as a backup. I think he's a decent enough backup. That's what he showed to me last year. He still has a lot of issues to his game. But I wouldn't trust starting him personally. Plus, I think Driscoll and Wynn are just better fits for the system. I move my mic right there. Okay. Apparently, the OTAs today, I saw Jody Fortson. I saw him mentioned a few times by some of the people, the beat writers. I couldn't think of what they're called for a sec. But yeah, they mentioned Jody Fortson, which is interesting that he looks like, that he brings something different to the table that other Dolphins sort of tight end room and receiver room don't really have with that size and speed combination. Definitely is a red zone threat. I think it'd be really curious to see how he would be used in McDaniel's system because McDaniel hasn't really had a player like that could play that F role. They had Gesicki, who is an F tight end that sort of big slot receiver. But Fortson's a different type than Gesicki overall. Like Fortson's a little more built to him and a little more speed. So that will be an interesting one to see because Fortson has a chance to make the roster, but he's no guarantee either. He's kind of fighting for that third tight end spot. And it would be very interesting if he does make it to see how he would be used because I feel like he could have a lot of fun with Fortson because that would add a different level, a different layer to the offense when he has some different usage to him compared to the other tight ends because Jonnu Smith is more of your yak guy. Durham Smythe is your blocker, the tight end 2 blocking type, reliable hands, but nothing too crazy as a receiver. Fortson is a former receiver. Do you think after June 1st that they will pick up one more good free agent lineman? Depends what you mean by good. I think they'll still pick up someone. Who that will be, I don't know. I think they could pick up someone that could still potentially start, yeah. I think that's a possibility. At O-line, for sure. I think that's probably the only position I could see them picking up where someone would have a chance to start right now is interior O-line. The last time we had a 3-headed running monster, we won back-to-back Super Bowls. Yeah, that was a long time ago. I was not alive. God, how amazing would it be to see back-to-back Super Bowl wins? I've never been experienced a playoff one. But yeah, there's a lot of fun camp battles. The interior O-line will be fun. The tight end 3 battle will be fun. The receiver 3 battle. The sort of running back battle after the top 3 will be interesting to see if someone makes it as the 4th. I'm interested to see who will be the next D tackle, like in the rotation too. I think after Sealer, obviously, and I think Tart is kind of that favorite for the second guy. I'm curious to see who kind of makes it out of that room too. And I think a lot of the other positions will be pretty set in stone. Maybe corner 3. Corner 3 will be interesting because will it be Kohu in the slot or will it be like, okay, we're gonna move Ramsey to play the slot mostly this game because Ramsey's gonna be moved around a lot. And then they put like Kendall Fuller and Cam Smith on the outside. So it'll just I think, that will definitely play into it. What's the role for Ramsey going to be that week? What else did I want to talk about? They've been so much Tua stuff's been talked about. I mean, I don't really care. There are like people talking about him holding out. Like he's not holding out. All of that is pretty much pointless to talk about. The one thing I did want to talk about Tua is him being down in weight just a little bit. Because I do think one thing that held Tua back a little bit last year, if you go back and look at week 1 last year, I think that's when Tua was at his best off script. That was probably his best game of the season too, versus the Chargers last year. Just all around, because he's always played great on script, but off script he was phenomenal in that game. And I feel like him adding on weight made him a little less mobile and kind of took away from his game at times. And I feel like for him to take his game to the next level, he needs to go back to having just enough mobility to maneuver the pocket a little bit better. Like he's never going to be that guy to be like, a great athlete, great off script. But if he gets a little bit better there, a little more, juice, I think that would definitely help him out. And I think, a reason, I also want to talk about, I think a reason Tua can be so divisive among fans is because, like, every QB, every player has their strengths and weaknesses, right? I think Tua has for me, he has very clear strengths and very clear weaknesses. But I think to the casual eye, like the more casual fans, it's very clear to see his weaknesses, but it's not as clear to see what his strengths are. Like, because Tua's like it's all about like his anticipation, his eyes, maneuvering people over the middle of the field. Like he throws the glance routes at that 10 to 19 yard range over the middle of the field with anticipation about as good as anyone. Like the stuff he does do really well is probably the things he does about as good as anyone in the league. But those are things people don't notice. Those look like basic throws to some, the more casual fan base. So I think that's why, it can be divisive with this because like his weaknesses are easy to understand, but his strengths can be a little harder. So yeah, I moved to Florida on Halloween night the year they went undefeated. Really? That's crazy. That's cool though. In my next film breakdown, I'm going to do another video on Jordan Brooks. I know I did one right when they signed him as a free agent, so that was like March or whatever. I want to do one where he's like, it's really focused on his scheme fit, because I think the Brooks signing is really, really what could take this defense to the next level next season, because I think Brooks just fits in perfectly. Like, he fits into that Roquan Smith role that if you look at the Ravens defense, like in coverage, what Weaver is going to ask of his linebackers, that's where I think Brooks really interests me. So I'm just going to like really focus on his scheme fit, and I am really excited to do that Jordan Brooks video because I think he could really help, because that's somewhere the Dolphins defense struggled last year, was at their second level, their linebackers in coverage. Like, David Long was a beast versus the run, but he wasn't great in coverage. And then Baker could do some stuff in coverage, but it was more in man, not do the stuff that you're kind of looking for with what Weaver's asking. That's kind of where Brooks will come into the view as a guy who's like really carrying people, matching vertically down the field, taking away those throwing lanes. Plus, it just makes it easier across the board on everyone, because you take away the throwing lane, a split extra second, you give your edge defenders an extra half second to get there, you give your DBs help on the back end, it all just helps it out. Is there any smoke to the Jonathan Allen trade rumors? I don't think so, personally. I mean, there's always a chance that it could happen. I mean, it wouldn't happen until, like, they don't have any money right now anyway, so it'd have to happen after June. But, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it happened, but I think most of the people that were reporting on it, I don't know, like, specific, I think it was, like, Locked On Washington or whatever. Like, they also said it was, like, it could have been, like, one of their receivers at Washington, like De'Ami Brown or whatever, and I think they were just kind of throwing names out. I think the Dolphins are looking more for a rotational piece. And if they did trade, I would guess like a day, like it would probably be for like a round 3 pick or something, round 4. I'm guessing they would go like round 4, and then they'd be like, if you have a comp third, then it becomes a comp third or something, which the Dolphins will have a comp third. I don't think it would be like I wouldn't do anything more than that, though. I think that wouldn't be the best move. But Jonathan Allen's still a pretty solid player. I just don't know how much legs there is to that rumor right now. But you know, with Chris Greer, it's always possible. He loves to make some splash moves. That's kind of... What was I talking about for that? Oh yeah, Jordan Brooks video coming out soon, film breakdown. So expect that. And then yeah, OTAs, as I talked about, Jody Fortson. I'm pretty sure they said Gavin Hardison, the UDFA from UTEP, threw him like a 45-yard touchdown. So Hardison is throwing, which is the sign that I learned from that. Like, he threw a nice touchdown. Probably the most talented, like, arm talent-wise of the QBs that were playing today, because, you know, Tua wasn't there, but Hardison has a lot of arm talent. So it would be interesting to see. I think Hardison is someone who could actually, wouldn't be surprised out of the UDFAs if he kind of stands out in preseason, just based on his physical talent alone. Plus, I don't think any of the QBs are safe after Tua. I don't think anyone's guaranteed. At least not for me. Let's pull up here. Boom. And you know, the rest of the Jaylen Wright stuff. Love his ability to press up, make some movements right there. We'll go back to that real quick, because I think that's something he really does really well. Because a lot of guys, when you're talking about these people's athleticisms, I like to look how people move when they're not moving in necessarily a straight line. When it's like this curvilinear movement, you're working straight, but sometimes it's off to an angle, and then you have to, you know, slow down, make a cut. And he doesn't waste a lot of movement there. He very rarely slows down. Able to run through contact, pick his feet up through the contact, and still maintain that speed. That's something that really impresses me. It's like those little things. Ability to maintain speed through contact and off those slight angle changes. Plus, love this ability to fight for extra work there, stay on your feet, and staying square, vision, footwork, all very efficient. Something that really stands out to me with Jaylen Wright. And you can see some of the curvilinear movement there again to, you know, pick up some extra speed after getting out of that. And then here's just that home run speed after he hits that extra gear to outrun everyone. But very, very impressed with what Jaylen Wright will bring to the table. I think, honestly, right now, if you had to make me like pick someone to be the most impactful rookie year one, my guess is just Jaylen Wright just thinking about the rooms, thinking about them as players, I would probably guess Jaylen Wright. I think the guys that have the best chance are like guys like Chop, Wright, maybe Malik Washington, maybe Muhammad Kamara. Those are probably the four I would say are the best likelihood right now to make an impact. I think all of them will probably see some playing time at some point. I think Chop and Kamara will see playing times for sure early on because of the injuries. But I just think of Wright as a right now NFL ready player. Plus running backs, I think, is one of the easier positions that translates to the NFL level very quickly. And I think, there will always be some running back injuries. So I just think he's going to see time. And I just think he's a pretty NFL ready player. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Right? Looks like Mostert. Honestly, when I thought of it, I was like, Wright kind of looks like young Raheem. Definitely, because they're kind of obviously both have that speed element. Will both kind of both run upright too. And Mostert, obviously, I think people underrate Mostert's size. He has, I think people think of Mostert as like a smaller back, which is not really his game. I still want a safety. I feel like Buffalo would never let him go. They felt like he hadn't lost a step. Yeah, to me, safety and guard is like the two things I would add in free agency right now. I definitely think they need a safety because I think the Dolphins will play 3 safety sets. Now, there are 3, because the Ravens ran 3 safety sets. I think they kind of see Ramsey as that third safety, because Kyle Hamilton was that guy they used in that star role. They would have 2 normal safeties. But now Ramsey will probably play that star role, and then they'll just have, Holland and Poyer play the safety. So, instead of, having a third safety, you have Ramsey play that Kyle Hamilton role, and then you just need an extra corner on the field. So you could see guys like, Cam Smith, Kohu getting their playing time. They have guys like Nick Needham, who I think will be playing kind of a versatile role. I've talked about Ethan Bonner playing both kind of a versatile role. If he makes the roster, I think he can be that type of player. It'll be interesting to see. I think the defensive back room definitely will be, I think, the most interesting to me because I have a pretty good idea of what the Dolphins are going to do under Weaver up front. I have a feeling, a good feeling how they're going to utilize Chop, how they're going to utilize Sealer. I have a good feeling Jordan Brooks. You look at Jordan Brooks, go watch Ravens film. That's kind of what they're going to ask. They're going to just watch what Roquan Smith was doing. That's what they're going to ask Brooks to do. But I think the Ravens, comparing the secondaries, there's some slight differences. So I think the secondary is the one that I still have some questions about. So I'm excited to see it come into it. Ravens brought in Jamal Adams today. Yeah, I've seen the Jamal Adams thing. I'm not super interested in that. I would have to watch Jamal Adams, but I don't think Jamal Adams is anything more than basically a dime linebacker at this point in his career. So I think he could play as a role as as that, but I would rather add a true safety that could play on the back end because I think Poyer. If you watched Poyer last year, he looked pretty good in that dime linebacker role. That's some of where his best film was last year. When I was watching Poyer, I'm like, he's playing as a dime linebacker and looking pretty good. So if you're going to play in those 3 safety sets and you have Poyer play as a dime linebacker, I'm not mad about that. You just need another safety who can play on the back end, which the Dolphins have people obviously on the roster. I just don't know if they have anyone I'm comfortable with playing significant snaps unless there's injuries, Yeah, Dion. Running back, I think, is one of probably the easiest positions. Not easy, I'd say easiest for going from college to pro, where you see a lot of year 1 impact players at the running back position. Some positions take longer to develop. Tight end's always a position that's usually taken longer to develop because they have to learn a lot. It's a lot on their plate mentally because they have to learn the playbook from a lot of different perspectives. They're learning the playbook of the wide receiver room, but almost what the O-line is doing as well with the blocking schemes and stuff. So. I'm excited to see how all this stuff plays out, man. I'm going to do some stream specifics on that where we just go over rooms and we just break down each room. I don't know what stream will be next. And we'll just do streams, just on current events too. What sort of, once the actual camps start getting more and more publicized, because there's not much really been said other than, Jody Fortson looked good today. I think Gavin Hardison threw him a touchdown. Oh, another thing, I think I saw Achan was used a lot as receiver, which is a big thing. I think I might make a video on Achan just purely as receiver, because when they drafted Jaylen Wright, it was something I thought about, like running 21 personnel, but allowing Achan to be used more in the receiving game. You could see it was something they were trying to do more and more as the year went on, like actually as receiver, not just as like a dump off guy. Like they were allowing him to run routes, and I think it's something he can do. So getting him more and more comfortable with that is very big, because I think, it also allows versatility to the offense, because you align him out wide and you're able to actually throw him those routes. Like defenses are not going to want to put a linebacker on him. And when you have two running backs on the field, it allows you to actually, still run some stuff with guys like in the backfield with Achan out wide. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about for the most part. I mean, anyone have any questions, anything specifics we can go over? I talked about, there's not too much to go over with the schedule other than, there's a tough last 6-game stretch. Dolphins just got to step up, which is important. I wish the Dolphins had, I don't know if I like starting out with 2 home games right away, because we have less home than away, or we have like 1 less home, I think, this year now. I wish the bye week was a little bit later. We have 2 West Coast games, which kind of sucks. Hopefully we can step up there. They're not super easy games either. But the start of the season is the easier part again for Miami. And the back stretch is the tougher part, I would say. But you never know. When you look at these schedules preseason, it always ends up being vastly different going into the seasons. Teams perform differently. There's injuries playing certain teams. Like teams look way different compared to what you actually expect. That's why I don't put too much stock. Oh, and how about the Dolphins? The Dolphins release, what's it called? Their schedule release video. Oh man, their social media team. Not the great. Yeah, the home field advantage was, we don't really get a home field advantage really at all, because we played Jacksonville week 1. It's like, it's another Florida team. I'd rather just play them in Jacksonville anyway. Like, have that be one of our away games, but we don't really get it versus Buffalo. Then Tennessee, we don't get it either, because that's a Monday night game. They're both night games. Really, the Cardinals game, week 8, is the first time we actually have like a home field advantage, so one of the 1 p.m. games. But by then, it's not, we don't get September Miami advantage. It's at the end of October, I believe. And then Raiders, New England. Those are 1 p.m. games. That's week 11 and week 12. So yeah, not too much like home field advantage for Miami next year, for their usual home field advantage, which is a big part of their big part of their success. After playing in negative 30-degree weather last year, I think the Dolphins will feel better about some of these other games. They just have to realize it will never be as bad as that. Hopefully. Oh yeah, also Javon Holland's comments today on what did he say? Like Anthony Weaver, biggest thing is he's just actually a good person or something. That's crazy. Going in on Vic Fangio, basically. Looks like Holland was not a fan. And Fangio he's a pretty good, obviously a very smart scheme guy, knows what he's doing. But I don't think the players liked him. So maybe with coach in there with Anthony Weaver, hopefully Weaver knows what he's doing, and then the players really want to play for him. So hopefully the defense can even take another step next season. Because there was times last year they weren't great, but there was times where they stepped up. How's it good? The Lions, man. The Lions schedule, they only have three of their 17 games where they're not playing in a dome, which is so good for them, because Goff struggles in cold weather. He struggles when he has to play outside. So he only has, imagine if the Dolphins had a bunch of dome games. I feel like the Dolphins would dominate in the dome, whenever they would play in dome games. They'd be really, really good at that. Nope, not in the AFC East. They will not be playing the Dome very often. Hey, nice little stream. Might end it here pretty soon, unless people have something they want to talk about. As honestly, I just wanted to stream again because I hadn't in a while because I was absolutely destroyed from being sick. Like, I was fighting demons. As I said when this video stream started, I was fighting absolute demons. It was tough. But now I'm back. And I'll start doing some more streams where we can talk different stuff that's happening. But I really do want to get into, I think I'm obviously going to keep doing film breakdowns. That'll be like the main thing. But I think for streams, I just want to really like maybe just dig into one position group at one point. Last year, fourth hardest schedule. By the end of the year, we didn't play anybody. Last year, did we play a lot of good teams at the end? Are you saying like we didn't play good against anyone? Because it feels like these past couple of years now, this year and last year, we've had some tougher schedules. I know last year, definitely, it looked like we were playing some very tough games for a while. There was definitely a stretch. We had a stretch of easy games. We had like a 5-game stretch where it was like, oh, we should win all of those, and I think the Dolphins went 4-1. And then they ended the year with like a tough stretch because they played like Dallas, Buffalo, someone else, or Ravens. Yeah. Thanks, Thunder. Yeah, it was long, but better now. So yeah, Jordan Brooks video next, film breakdown, just focusing on how he's going to fit the scheme. And I think I'm going to throw some I'm going to find some Roquan Smith clips just to show like how Roquan was used in Baltimore, specifically in coverage, because strength of schedule always changes. That's why I don't look too much into it. Strength of schedule at the start of the season. Sometimes it does, stay relatively the same, but yeah, it definitely can flip on its head at times. But yeah, really focus on how Jordan Brooks was used in coverage and like compare that to how he'll be used in Miami. Looking at some Roquan Smith film because I think that's kind of the role I envision for him. Now Roquan Smith is a different level player because Roquan's a beast. But I think there's a reason they went after Jordan Brooks instead of going after like Patrick Queen. Because Patrick Queen can obviously play within this system, and they didn't cost that much different money-wise. But I think Brooks are looking at more as of that Mike instead of as a Will, even though he can do both. But I think they see him more in that role, and that's something they value because David Long will definitely get his job done. Plays with his intensity, his energy, and you know what to expect from him. Like, especially in the running game. In coverage, nothing too spectacular there, but that's where Jordan Brooks comes into play. Yeah. We started with a tough schedule at the beginning of the season, and at the end of the season, we have having the easiest schedule. Did we have the easiest schedule at the end of last season? I don't remember that. Maybe we did, but I remember thinking like maybe when we played the teams, they had them that's what it was. When we played teams, they didn't have the best records, right? But like we destroyed Denver. But at certain point at one point in the season, Denver was actually looking pretty solid. At other points of the season, Denver looked absolutely horrible. I just think it depends. To me, it just depends when you play someone, Like the Denver game, they lucked them out when they played Denver when they were horrible, beat them 70 to, whatever the score was. But then they got kind of unlucky when they played some other teams. Caught them when they're hot. Good to have football drama back. Yeah, I kind of just avoid the drama stuff. I'm not into the... There's always some story around this time when it's just because you got to get your clicks up. That's how you make the money. But I mean, that's not really what. The narrative change is the narrative changed. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it plays out this season. I just hope Dolphins need to start strong, obviously, because they have the Dolphins are a team that always starts strong now under McDaniel, but they just need to finish strong this time. But they need to start strong too, because if they don't start strong, they're kind of in a tough spot. But finishing strong will be very important. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I want to talk about, unless anyone has any last second things they want to say. But yeah, expect a Jordan Brooks film breakdown probably not tomorrow, maybe the next day after that. I'll just be posting film breakdowns, every couple days, streaming every few days as well. But yeah, later guys, peace.